Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars. Hi, this is Dave, and you're about to listen to What Does Star Wars Mean to You? I wanted to take a moment to let you know we're on a holiday break right now, and we'll be returning in 2025 with all new interviews, minisodes, and certain points of views on Star Wars. So until then, enjoy this episode, and may the Force be with you, always. Hello there. This is Dave, and you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You? This is the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars, from industry insiders to indie artists, from mega collectors to obsessive mythologists, to find out how Star Wars impacted their life. Here's the thing, Star Wars has become so divisive that it's almost impossible to talk about it without starting a hate debate. So let's change the conversation from what is right or wrong with Star Wars to what does Star Wars mean to you? Today it's episode 4, Jennifer Chapman Gallego Part 2. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, Jennifer is a marketing expert with a geek side. She has worked with such brands as Disney, Marvel, and MGM, just to name a few. She has run an experiential company, and now she's taking all this real-world experience and diving into XR to make the metaverse a reality. But most importantly, she had a Star Wars-themed wedding, and we're going to talk all about that. Last episode, we did a deep dive into Jennifer's love of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka, and Mandalore lore. We also talked about how Mon Mothma and Mace Windu and Yoda all kind of fell down on the job of guiding the Chosen One. Don't worry, in part 2, Jennifer still has a lot of soapboxes to stand on, and it's still a lot of fun. But first, a couple of things. It's Thursday, March 30th. And there's a lot coming up in April. Next week, Dave Sherrill joins me. He's an artist from Canton, Ohio, who's like Bob Ross meets punk rock. He takes paintings of pastoral settings and adds all kinds of geek-tastic things to them. Of course, my favorite being the Star Wars stuff. Then after Dave is J.C. Reifenberg, who is the creator and owner of the Hollywood geek bar Scum and Villainy. And he tells of his lifelong obsession with Star Wars and how it got him from the Rosie O'Donnell show to working in Hollywood. All of this leads up to my May the 4th Be With You special, where JC shares his Jar Jar theory, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not what you expect it to be. So keep listening and click the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, what else this week? Finally, Cad Bane is coming to the Vintage Collection line, and I'm psyched for it. I love the old Kenner line and how the Vintage Collection keeps that look going. And I don't get a lot of action figures anymore, but I did pre-order Cad Bane. I pre-ordered 2. I got one to open and one to sit in on the shelf. Now, a lot of people talk about collecting figures, and I see a lot of people saying, oh, you got to open them and play with them and pose them and stuff. I'm not against that, but my love is the packaging as well. As soon as I open the figure, I kind of lose interest. I'm like, yeah, it's super cool, and I'll put it up on the shelf. But it's just that tension between having the package and not opening it is kind of what thrills me. And I'm big into marketing, and I'm big into branding. And so I love how the vintage line looks like the old Kenner line with the photograph from the movie or show showing the character in the movie or show logo across the top, the Kenner logo. It's just the whole thing I really love. I wish the backs had more. They used to have like all 96 figures on the back of a Kenner box. I kind of wish they still did that, have like a bunch of figures. Do you remember like getting the catalog that came with the vehicles? It was like a small 3-inch by 2-inch booklet, and it was just pictures of the different vehicles you could get. Where's those? I want one of those again. I guess browsing Amazon pages isn't exactly the same thing. But my point being is I ordered the Cad Bane figure. I love Cad Bane. He's one of my favorite non-theatrical characters. As like, I guess from the Filoni-verse. Every time he shows up in an episode, I enjoy it. He is just such a badass bounty hunter, six-shooter. I ordered my Cad Bane figure, and now I have to wait until September 19th when it's released. That's a little too long. I gotta tell you, I never thought I'd be ordering a figure 6 months in advance. What is it? March, April, May, June, July, August. Yeah, it's 6-ish months. It's not quite 6 months, but it's still too long. That's all I'm saying. What else this week? So spoiler alerts, because I'm going to talk about Mandalorian and Bad Batch. And before I totally get into it, though, I just have a question for you. Could Disney Plus, I don't know, just release one Star Wars thing a day? Like maybe Wednesday it's Mandalorian and then Thursday it's Bad Batch? Does everything have to drop on the same day? I just like, again, it goes back to that tension almost of anticipation, getting, and then moving on. And I would love to like anticipate for Wednesday and then anticipate for Thursday instead of like, getting up super early to watch Mando and Bad Batch, so if I scroll Twitter, I'm not getting any spoilers. But having said that, I'm going to have spoilers. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched this week's Mandalorian or Bad Batch yet, they just came out yesterday, so you should know if you watched them or not. But, watch them, pause this, go watch them, come back, or just skip ahead. Be like a minute 30. That's all I'm going to spend on them. And because I don't do recaps. And I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. Because listening to me do a recap of anything is like holding a lecture on why billionaires have it tough. No one wants to hear it. So first of all, Mandalorian. Another action-packed episode. And also another episode with bureaucracy. At one point, I forget his name, the New Republic police officer goes to Coruscant to get approval to help Grief out with these pirates who are attacking the city. And what you just see is more New Republic bureaucracy. And I wonder, I feel like they're massaging this kind of storyline in to build to a bigger storyline. And really it is building to the birth and expansion of the New Order. And I like seeing how local governments are going, look, they're far away. They don't know us. They don't know what we're going through, and they're not going to help us. And if anything does happen, it gets bogged down in bureaucracy. Javier Grillo-Marxuach, when he was a guest, talked about the bureaucracy on the Death Star when Vader chokes the guy. It's that one small moment that reveals the bureaucracy of Star Wars, and that has spread out, and it's kind of very fun to watch when it's exciting. Sometimes it can be a little like a slog to get through, but I think if they're going somewhere interesting, it's going to be really great. One thing I noticed, a little Easter egg, is Grief ceded the land to Bullock Canyon to the Mandalorians. Now, this is a reference to Jeremy Bullock, who played Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And I thought that was just a great little, tribute to the late Jeremy Bullock. Because he, with all the new Boba Fett stuff, I don't think, get quite as much accolades as he should, because he originated the character. Another just small thing from Mandalorian, I guess two small things. One is I love that the pirate. I love that pirate. I wish he didn't die this episode. Spoiler, I just said it. He dies. But I love that the pirate took the wheel of the ship. I really love when they extrapolate kind of like naval looks into the Star Wars universe, because they really did do that with the Empire. I mean, the Empire is basically the British Navy, just in black and gray and white. And then Bad Batch. Okay, now this season finale was a two-parter, and it was full of surprises. I didn't expect Sal Guerrero to show up. I didn't expect the big one, spoiler, Tech to die. Oh my God! What? The death of Tech totally floored me, but in the last scene, if you look, when Omega runs over to Crosshair on that slab, in the background, just before she runs over, in the background is a clone laying on a slab and his eyes are covered. And the one thing that Hemlock, the evil doctor, gave Hunter was Tech's broken goggles. And so I'm wondering, are they going to actually kill Tech? Are we going to reveal that he was somehow saved? I don't, I hope not. I mean, I loved Tech this season. And the reason why I loved him is because they gave his character so much to do. And the reason they gave his character so much to do is so that there was that exceptional gut punch when he dies. You know, you grow to love him through Omega's eyes. And then he sacrifices himself to save the rest. And I just think if they bring him back to life, they're going to undercut that sacrifice, undercut the character a little bit, and also undercut their own stakes. Because as soon as someone comes back to life, as a viewer, you're like, okay, so next time someone dies, I'm not going to be fully invested in it because people come back to life. Now, look. The Emperor came back to life like 9 million times, so who am I to say or question the Star Wars universe, except for a huge fan, I guess. You know? I also love that Hunter was about to hang it all up so that Omega could have a life. It showcases one of the things Jennifer and I talked about last week, which was the idea of a found family being so important to Star Wars. And since I've talked enough so far, I probably should get to the part of the show where Jennifer talks. So let me know, what do you think about Cad Bane coming to the Vintage Collection? Do you think Tech is really dead or will he come back? And are you loving the gut punches that the Star Wars universe is throwing our way? Let me know on Insta or Twitter at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. And after this quick break, it's part 2 of my conversation with Jennifer Chapman Gallego. Your first experience with Star Wars.
Yeah.
What was that day like?
I vividly remember, so I was 6 months old when the first Star Wars film hit theaters.
If you say you vividly remember that, I'm going to be so impressed because I can't remember anything before 10, the age of 10 years.
Yes, under 10, I do remember being at my cousin's house, my aunt and uncle's house with my cousins who were 3, 5, and 7 years older than me. And they were the coolest because they had a satellite dish, which was so baller, like in the early 80s. And they had a VCR with a remote that was on a wire.
Like, yeah. Attached to the VCR.
So you could only sit so far away. But I remember this particularly because this is like however many years later after there's a VHS that comes out. Or actually, I think what it was is I don't think like an actual VHS of Star Wars had come out yet. But I think it had played on like HBO or something on the dish and they had recorded it. So I was able to watch it with them. I don't know, what does that make me at that time? It was the early 80s. So maybe I was like 6 or something, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I very clearly remember watching Star Wars with them and watching it multiple times and getting to the part where Luke and Leia are about to swing across and, you know, the stormtroopers are firing at them badly. And she gives him a quick kiss and says, "For luck." And for some reason, just as a child, I was like, oh my goodness. I don't know. Apparently I was a Victorian child or something. And I was shocked. And I remember using the wired remote to rewind and go back and go, oh my gosh, she did kiss him. Oh my goodness. I don't know why that was so shocking to me as a 5, 6, 7-year-old, but apparently it was. So I very clearly remember that. And for some reason, I love Star Wars always. I had Star Wars action figures that I remember playing with my friends. I remember playing with Legos with my best friend and kind of building ships and stuff before all the fancy Lego Star Wars sets that I literally have in my house today. And
Which are amazing, by the way.
Which
The
are
sets
amazing
now,
and like many hundreds of dollars.
yes.
And mostly for
Yes.
my husband to build because he gets frustrated with me building them because I'm very slow. And then I remember, when the new films came out, going to midnight screenings.
When you say the new films, do you mean the prequel trilogy?
Prequels, yes. Sorry.
Yes, yes.
So I was
That's okay.
out of college when the prequels came out. So I went to see those midnight screenings with friends.
Now, a lot of people around our age feel like the prequel trilogy was not as great as they anticipated.
Yeah.
Where were you then and where are you now with the prequel trilogy?
I'm glad that you asked that because it does change for me, and it's changed for me for a couple of reasons. So I was very much in the camp at the time when they came out. Like, yes, I still went to see all of them in the theater, sincerely hoping something was going to get better. I walked out of the first one going, I think that was a Star Wars. I don't know. I walked out of the second one going, sweet, ow, my eyes. What did I even watch? And then I walked out of the third one going, I think that was better. I don't know. I couldn't get no out of my head.
Yeah.
So, but in subsequent years, and thanks in large part to my husband. So oddly enough, my husband, who I did not meet until I was, I think, 34. And he was, math is hard, but I want to say 27. Again, math is really hard. But anyway, he's 7 years younger than me. So he grew up with those movies in high school. And I was out of college when those movies hit. So those were his movies. He's in that generation of where he loved those so much. So, and he was a raging, he already had a sleeve of Star Wars tattoos when we met. So I was like, all right, get me on board with these prequels. Let's do this. And the first thing he did is, I had watched some Clone Wars at the time, but I was kind of like, I looked something funny. Yeah. And so, and
it's hard when when they're based on something that maybe you're not entirely into.
It's hard to get into because it's a lot of episodes, even at the time when it was still airing, and it's a little intimidating because so much of it is, it's this 3-episode arc, it's this 4-episode arc, but then there are these one-offs where it's like, the droids are off having it. I do not care about that at all. So let's sure. And I know I apologize to all of the people who love droid adventures. I'm sorry. I know many of you do. So
I do want to point out, though, to the people who love the droid adventures.
Yeah.
This is a person who did 2 impersonations of droids.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I do.
So it's not like you hate the droid.
R2 is still one of my favorite Star Wars characters. He's for sure in my top 10 because he's the one guy who has seen everything. Quickly followed by Chopper, who has the worst potty mouth in all of Star Wars, and I love him so much. So I started watching Clone Wars, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm getting this. And I did not like Ahsoka at first. And as you know, many people go on a journey with her, which is part of what makes her so great. But I started to fall in love with her. I started to fall in love with Padme. I started to fall in love with Obi-Wan, with Anakin. And I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. The clones all have different personalities. They're all really different people. Thank you to D. Bradley Baker for his amazing work in that series. So I interviewed him once when I was working at Marvel because he was doing work on a Star Wars series, and I almost cried at him because I was just, and Matt Lanter, they were working on the same series, and I almost straight cried at both of them. I had to try to be professional. Anyway, so having the space to be emotionally involved with those characters in Clone Wars, to learn about their individual stories, their personalities, to actually see Padme and Anakin have a relationship, to see the actual reasons why Anakin would turn to the dark side, and not just have it be like a flip of a switch, which is kind of what it looks like in Revenge of the Sith. So then I've gone back and watched the films, and I don't love them, but I appreciate them now. And I have found my own ways to enjoy them. When we watch Attack of the Clones, we typically fast forward through all of the, and I'm going to use this term loosely, romantic parts.
You mean the
Although
when Harry met Sally scenes?
you have to watch the sand part because it is rough and coarse and it does get everywhere. So you really want to make sure that you watch that part so you don't forget, because I will never get enough of that scene. But beyond that, you do some fast forwarding and you're like, oh, this is a really neat political thriller. And when you see it that way, I actually really like the political side of it. And that's some of what I love about Clone Wars is Padme and some of what was the separatist Mina Bonteri.
I don't.
Mina Bonteri. And when they try to do like backdoor deals to end the war, and the oh my god, I'm trying to think of all the senators' names now, but you know what I mean? Like that stuff is actually really interesting, and there's a lot of that in the prequels. So all of that to say, they have grown on me a lot. And so now my love for Star Wars ages has expanded, OT and PT very much including Clone Wars and that whole area, and including Rebels and Solo and all of these things that are kind of have now peppered in the middle. But it's hard when you are somebody who consumes a lot of Star Wars, because I don't read the comics. My husband reads all the comics, but I read some of the canon novels when they're about characters I'm interested in. And having every time you watch a new episode of something or crack a new book, to get into the mindset of, okay, when is this set?
Yes.
Where is this? Who's alive? Who's not alive? Who's in power right now? Like having
how do they relate to each other right now?
Yes, exactly. I sometimes struggle to get into the right mindset when I'm watching or reading a new thing.
One of the things I found and very fascinating about the Clone Wars is that and I think Rebels does the same kind of thing. It starts out as a children's adventure cartoon and then slowly grows into this still a children's adventure cartoon with this political intrigue and layer, as well as an anti-war story.
Yeah.
And as Clone Wars progresses in the seasons, you get more and more weary of the war. If you watched it in order, you'd get to Revenge of the Sith. You're like, this is awful. What can we bring an end to this thing?
It's such a good point. It really drives home this idea. You almost forget that the Jedi were supposed to be peacekeepers. Like Ahsoka never knew the Jedi as a peacekeeping force. She only knew them as soldiers. She jumped in and she was, commander, or, she didn't get a chance to just see what it was like hopping around the galaxy, just trying to solve conflicts. Although, she really was trying to do that. And that's very much what Anakin and Obi-Wan wanted to do as well. But watching them slide deeper into this war, when you get episodes like, I want to say, is it Umbara, with the Jedi leader who just sees the clones as clones,
as tools,
as tools, not humans, right?
Yes,
and just doesn't care if they die and whatever. This is war; they die.
Yeah.
This is what
they were made for.
Yes. Yeah. This is what they're made for. Fine. They're cannon fodder. Things like that to really make you think about the nature of war and the nature of this fictional conflict. Sure. But the nature of war in general. And then one of my favorite Ahsoka episodes is Heroes on Both Sides, when she meets Lux Bonteri for the first time. It's actually that episode I was referencing where Padme goes to meet with Mina Bonteri and see if they can broker a back channel deal. And she kind of says, well, I've never met a separatist before, but you're all bad and you all just want to ruin the universe. And he's like, well, no. And she's forced to kind of say, wait a minute, maybe not everything I believe is right. I mean, there are so many great moments, or another one where she is teaching a class of students, including Corky, definitely not Obi-Wan's illegitimate son, in on Mandalore, and she starts talking about the power of people in government and governmental corruption. I mean, you're right. There are so many episodes and story arcs that really infuse such important, I mean, depending on your, your beliefs, but such important political and social lessons. And to your point about it being a kids show, I mean, deeper into Clone Wars, I mean, torture, suicide,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some
Existential
really
crises when you're a
yeah.
clone.
Yes. There's some really heavy stuff in there. And
There's a
I
lot of
mean,
stuff.
I remember, well, you and I both worked for Disney, and I remember when Disney bought Lucasfilm. And I remember one of my first thought was, oh, Disney will never air Clone Wars. And then
Yeah.
it got canceled and then it got brought back. Thank God, because season 7 is chef's kiss.
It is. Sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
no,
one
no,
thing I
please.
want to say is Rebels, they brought Rebels in.
Yes.
And year one of Rebels, even though it started off really strong, it felt like it took a step back from
Mhm.
Clone Wars, where it's
Yep.
like, oh, let's pull back on the war and the torture and blah, blah, blah.
And
And
then
then year 2, I think, Ezra's this young kid, idealistic, loves everyone. Year 2, shaves his head, becomes a real kind of, not a downer, but, becomes the best I can say.
a little emo.
Kind of emo. The best I can say is they become war torn between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And I was so glad that whoever pushed for it got it.
Yeah. Well, he builds a lightsaber that's also a blaster, which is
That's right.
so badass.
That's-
And that show is really interesting. Clone Wars, you're seeing a lot of, that has such a huge cast, and you're seeing a lot of almost slice of life things going on in the galaxy. There's that episode that's about the clone who just effed off and was like, nope, I'm going to have a family. I'm going to go, do whatever.
I'm a pacifist now.
Yeah. So you're seeing all these really interesting things. This is about a found family and dealing with their own individual family traumas. Ezra's dealing with having lost his parents because they died for this cause.
That's right.
Kanan is dealing with having lost the only family he knew because he was a Jedi and his master was killed in Order 66. Hera is dealing with the loss of her mother and the estrangement from her father because he was a rebel leader and devoted his life to the cause. I mean, you can go on and on. Sabine and Zeb lost almost his entire people. So, these are all
he
people
thought he
who
did.
These are all people who have these traumas, who have come together as a found family and are now have found this cause together. And it's so beautiful. And they bring in other people along the way. Here's bringing in Agent Callus, who was a bad guy and becomes part of their family. It is, I'm getting chills just thinking about that show. And man, the gut punches they pull toward the end of that too. If there is one thing that I love as a Star Wars fan, is a real good Star Wars cry.
Are you talking about series finale or episode 10 of season 4, I think?
There are a lot of them for me. I have a lot of, Ahsoka leaving the Order in Clone Wars, Kanan in Rebels. There are a lot of them for me. But and the fight between Ahsoka and Vader for sure. But how some people they'll be like, I need a good cry. I'm going to go put on this sappy, sad movie. I put on Star Wars. There are just, what gets me more than anything actually is when Ahsoka and Rex see each other for the first time after so many years and they run and hug each other. And he says, you got old. Oh my God, the gut punch. I could cry just thinking about it right now. I love Ahsoka's journey she's always been very tapped into her emotions. Very, she was very much there. The one thing that Yoda ever did right is have her be Anakin's Padawan, because they were such a great pair. They learned so much from each other, and they truly loved each other, and not in a romantic way, obviously, but
Yeah.
in the best possible familial best friend way. So she learned from him that is okay. I mean, she knew about him and Padme, and so did Rex. I mean, they all knew it was the worst
Yeah.
kept
Yeah.
secret. But it's still nobody did anything, but sure, whatever. But you know, she learned that from him, that was okay, and I think part of what she was rejecting when she left the Jedi Order was the dogmatic stuff that she recognized as a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
So I think that in leaving the organized religion of it all behind, and really just embracing the kinds of things that she learned from Kanan, the things she learned from Ezra, the things that she learned about the Bendu, or the Night Sisters, or all of these other ways of using the Force. I think that is what's leading her down the path that she's on now.
What are the characteristics of Ahsoka that you find so compelling?
I think it's a lot that I think it's her ability to learn from others, no matter who they are. I think there's an episode early on, or if not in the movie, it's a little hazy for me in some of those in like season 1, but there's a moment where she's like, okay, this is your group of soldiers, like you command them, go do, and like they all die, and she is like, holy crap, like I want to not do that again. Like, and she takes it really hard.
Yes.
And she, talks to Anakin about it. And that really puts her on a journey of understanding the weight that's put upon her, and really makes her take it seriously. And, you watch her start to better understand her mistakes. She starts to change from Snips to move away
the
from
nickname that Anakin gave her.
Sweet Jeebus, Artui and Snips, Sky Guy, and all the nonsense, to this young woman who saw an opportunity to learn everywhere, and to teach and to share what she learned. I love the arc on Onderon, where she's teaching Saw Gerrera and his sister, how to fight, and Lux Bonteri, who rolls in. She just is always looking for lessons from everybody, from Plo Koon, who she always considered a mentor. So I'm excited to continue to see her growth. I mean, we've also seen her from 14 to 40 something, basically. And we don't necessarily get that many characters' lifespan. I don't know how long Togruta live, but I was excited to see, Sheely, their home world, in the animated series. That was very cool to get to see part of that. So, I'm excited to be able to continue to see her evolve and learn and change and grow. I mean, it's just been such a great arc. And I love her approach to things. I mean, I can see, I identify with her in some ways, both good and bad, some knee-jerky kind of things that she does, but also some thoughtful things that she does.
Give me 2 good ways and 2 bad ways.
She can be a little flippant in the face of authority. Which I get, especially when the authority figures deserve it. Looking at you, Mace Windu. But she also knows when to be like, okay, not my thing, not wanted here. I'm gonna go, and not just in the moments like when she leaves the Order. She knows how to take care of herself, like what's best for her. But also, even in season 7, when Mace Windu was a jerk face to her, she was like, all right, I'm gonna go. I don't need you. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. So I appreciate that. And she's very now to mix my nerderies, never give up, never surrender. Like She is a fighter, and she is a passionate fighter who believes in goodness and truth, that the truth will out, and that people you love and causes you believe in are worth fighting for. And she's still doing it. I mean, and it would have been so easy for her to be like, okay, we're just not going to deal with these rebels or whatever anymore. I mean, when she was back to the book, she was, kind of trying to live these quiet lives, and she kept getting not dragged into things because she kept finding that she wanted to, these farmers need to have an uprising against this. I guess I'll help them plan this uprising because I know how to do that. And when Bail Organa kind of ends up finding her and being like, hey, say, listen, do you want to be a spy and stuff? And she's like, all right, I guess. And that's how she becomes Fulcrum, and she just jumps right back into it because she's like, I can't not. I know that there is a need in the galaxy. I know that there are people suffering like these farmers, but that's happening on 1,000 worlds. And I have the skills. I have been trained for this. It would be wrong of me to not help. And I love that about her, and she's committed her whole life to that.
Now, it sounds to me quite a bit like she inspires you.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any instances in your daily life where maybe you're literally like, what would Ahsoka do?
Yes, I have that tattoo also, the WWAD. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. It's an idea. I've been thinking about adding
WWADHD. I lost track when I was getting the tattoo, so.
That would be on brand for me. I like that. That's actually good. I don't know. I think probably more unconsciously than anything. I mean, I do think about Star Wars probably a lot. Daily.
That's why I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I mentioned Star Wars no fewer than 3 times just today, not now, like in my work day. So, it
what were some, can you tell me some of those references, or what, like the situation or anything?
I have a teammate who we always schedule extra time on our meetings to talk about whatever the latest Star Wars thing is. We hadn't talked about Andor yet, so we needed to talk about that.
Wow. I must have been like, we're going to run this meeting 2 hours over. And talk about Andor.
We book an extra 15 minutes to always talk about Star Wars. We usually end up talking about it at the front and then talk too long and have to rush everything else. I was talking about my dog, Sabine, today. And because some people think it's like, oh, it's a French name. It's a whatever. She's named after Sabine Wren, who is also one of my favorite Star Wars characters who we get to see in the new Ahsoka series. And I am so excited about that. I love all things Mandalore anyway, but Sabine Wren's arc in Rebels is spectacular. Her learning to use the Darksaber, that with Kanan and Ezra, that whole bit is so good. And her stuff with Bo-Katan too, and I also love Bo-Katan. It's interesting, I've never really thought about it, that most of my favorite Star Wars characters are women, and I never really thought about that before. I'm not usually somebody who is just like, yay, gotta support all the girl power. Not there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't do that consciously. But Ahsoka, Ventress, Sabine, Bo-Katan, and Obi-Wan are probably my top 5. Obi-Wan and Rex are swap out of that other top spot. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Well, let me ask you this, as we're just because we're talking about it. In the 80s, when you're watching the original trilogy, who were your top 2 or 3 from the original trilogy?
Original trilogy, I was Luke. Like, Luke was the person that I loved most. I mean, he was the hero, right? And
it was his journey.
I remember having a handful of the figures, and I remember talking to a guy friend, right? I'm like 6 or whatever, and talking to a guy friend about if boys would buy the Leia figure, like if they liked having a girl in the movie. I don't remember what the conversation was about, but I remember having that conversation. And of course, now, I love watching Leia. Again, if you read Bloodline or Leia, Princess of Alderaan, which is actually a YA book, I recommend reading them together, actually, if anybody hasn't read them, because they're both really good. Leia is such a badass.
Yeah.
So great. Those two books made me really love her more than the films by far.
It's like all the ancillary material is what builds up the movies.
It depends on the I love Claudia Gray. Give me anything that Claudia Gray writes. There are a couple of authors that I really like, but yeah, some it's not great. I haven't gotten into the High Republic stuff. I don't have anything against it, but I just haven't gotten into it. And to me, I'm not as clearly I am a Star Wars nerd. It might be shocking at this point in the discussion that I am a Star Wars nerd, but I'm not a Star Wars gatekeeper. Like, it's not up to me to decide who is and who isn't a Star Wars fan. Hey, do you love the original trilogy? Awesome, you're a Star Wars fan. Do you love the sequel trilogy? Do I judge you? For sure, but you're a Star Wars fan. Like, I'm not somebody who you have to be able to read Arabesh to be a Star Wars fan. If you like Star Wars, you're a Star Wars fan to me. So you don't have to love all of it. One of my best friends really hated the prequels, really hates the sequel trilogy, loves The Mandalorian. And I keep saying to him, you're a Star Wars fan. And he's like, no, I'm not a Star Wars fan anymore. Ruined my childhood. Blah, 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 blah. No, you are a Star Wars fan. And because you love The Mandalorian, that's all you need. Love Andor. Super. You're a Star Wars fan. My only caveat to that is if you only love the holiday special, you'd have to have a talk. Yeah, but it was the first appearance of Boba Fett. So animated Boba Fett, which we have that statue. It's so beautiful. The Gentle Giant statue. Oh, that's a beautiful one. Anyway, sorry, get excited.
I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to have a Star Wars wedding, and what did that include?
Yeah, I would say it was about a 75% Star Wars wedding. We did infuse a few other things into it that we loved. There was Trek, for sure.
Yeah.
We had, like, instead of having cake, we had an Enterprise. We had an actual Enterprise shaped pie holder, and the hull was a pie. Like, it's pie sat in it. We cut the pie.
I just love Enterpie.
Enterprise, yeah. We had 3 other pies with the color blueberry, pumpkin, and cherry for the colors of the OT uniforms. Anyway.
What was the first pie killed? The red one?
It was not. It really should have been. I'm mad I didn't think about that. That's really good, actually. And we had a little bit of Game of Thrones. We had a little bit of Buffy and Firefly and Marvel, because we met working at Marvel. So we had a few things like that. But the big set pieces were Star Wars. So we had hand painted, thank you, shout out to my mother-in-law, Julie, hand painted paper lanterns painted like planets from Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
That were absolutely beautiful. We had stormtroopers from the 501st. They were incredible. We had a working R2
the real 501st, which is kind of a charity organization as well.
Yep. So that was amazing. We got married at the Jim Henson lot here in LA because I'm also a raging Muppets nerd, and all things Henson, Dark Crystal, and Labyrinth, and Fraggle Rock, and all the things. So, we kind of wanted to bring other things that we're passionate about into that. We had some Star Wars in our ceremony. And actually, the first time I told my husband I loved him, he legitimately said, I know. And then nothing else. Like, he didn't say I love you back. He was just like, I know.
And he let that hang. Did he go away for 3 years?
No, about 3 weeks, though. It was in between before he told me back. Yep. Thanks, Ryan. But so we talked about that. Oh, the aisle decor was lightsabers. We actually, Ryan's grandfather rigged some lightsabers for us, so they just stayed lit up. And so we built little stands for them, and they were the aisle decor all the way down through. And we did the lightsaber salute when we walked back out. And then we had the stormtroopers block the end of the aisle when we were exiting the ceremony, and we force pushed them out of the way. I mean, they were game for anything. They were really, really great. So your actual question was, how did we decide to do this? I mean, one of the many things that brings us together, and we've been married for almost 10 years now, and I know that's not a long time in the grand scheme of things, but they've been 10 really great and happy years together, is our shared passions for stuff. When I meet new people, I always ask, what do you geek out about? And it might not be these kind of geeky things. It might be like surfing or cooking or whatever it is. But I love it when people are passionate about stuff, and it helps people to connect to each other when there's something that they're both passionate about, they can talk about. And so given that our marriage was going to be about being passionate about one another, not only in a wedding night kind of way, but in an everyday kind of way, we wanted to celebrate some of the passions that we shared. So Star Wars is head and shoulders the biggest of those. So when we started thinking about it, it was a lifelong dream of Ryan's to have stormtroopers at his wedding, and it became a conversation. Well, okay, yeah, let's have stormtroopers. What are they going to do? And he's like, well, they can pose for pictures. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's boring for them. How do we include them? And then that's when we came up with the idea of like force pushing them out of the way. I don't know if they walked somebody down the aisle. I can't remember. They had some roles in the reception. And then in the reception itself, I think all the food was Star Wars themed. We did a breakfast for dinner buffet.
Oh yeah.
It was like chicken and waffles, pancakes, because who doesn't love breakfast for dinner? And we had a ham solo carving station and Java juice, and oh god, the chicken and waffles area, we did like Mustafar fried chicken. And I mean, everything, our caterer got super into it. So
that sounds incredible. I was just making the connection of Mustafar fried chicken is where Anakin was burned.
I mean, is it a tasteful joke? No, but the chicken and waffles were tasteful. So there you go.
Yeah. That's all that counts,
I guess. Yeah. But when
it's fictional characters, it's always a tasteful joke.
Yeah,
maybe not.
Too soon.
I've been proven wrong.
But
I've been known to be wrong from time to time.
I'm not buying it. No, it was sweet. We actually got a little thing in like one of the Star Wars magazines. They did a little picture. Some of my favorite wedding pictures are of us, like me force choking one of the stormtroopers and Ryan kind of like leaning on one, and then we have another one where they're trying to pull us apart and all the groomsmen are like trying to break it up. And those were some of my favorite things of the day. It was really great and really memorable, but also very tasteful. It wasn't a goofy event. It wasn't a disrespectful event. Like, we called it geek chic because it was still very respectful to the seriousness of the day, but also very reflective of who we are as a couple.
Yeah, I don't think that passion for geek things, and it's a passion for anything, like you said. When you incorporate that into your day, it shows the importance of it in your life, not the unimportance of a wedding.
Yes, totally agreed. Totally. That's a really great way to put it.
Well, you phrased it best first when you said that we're passionate about each other, and these are the things we're passionate about, and we're going to be with each other for a long time. So why not incorporate it? Yeah. It's a very, very true statement. Let me ask you this. I feel like every question starts with, let me ask you this. It's a drinking game.
Ponder this.
What do you think are the 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
Oh, that's good. Okay. I'm going to get serious and think about this. Really cool space battles. I love a cool space battle. I don't know if that's completely true, but it is, when we've gotten some of these really lovely series that are not about the wars in Star, or the war is kind of like this thing that's happening over there, but it's about these people, right? So we're not necessarily seeing the space battles, but also space battles are really cool. So okay, not space battles. I'm gonna take that one back.
Okay.
The Force, I will say the Force, and that's not just meaning Jedi and Sith, obviously, as we've talked about. I think
Yep.
it's the Force surrounding us and binding us in whatever form that takes. I think it's about found family always, whether it's
Yeah.
Rebels or it's Luke and Han and Leia, or I think or it's
Could be Finn, Ray,
and that's what I was going to say. It's Finn and Ray and
and
Poe.
Poe.
It's about found family and droids. Really
And droids.
and good droids. I love, I'm not here for the droid adventures, but I am here for good droids, especially sassy droids.
Okay, so of all the things coming up, and there's a lot, what are you most excited for?
So you would think that I would say Ahsoka, but
One would think.
one would think. However, I have a lot of anxiety about the show because now, obviously, it's going to be well taken care of. Ahsoka is Dave's baby, right? So he is going to make sure that her story is well taken care of. But I love her so much. I'm so protective of her that I am nervous about this show. It has so much potential to be so amazing. We're going to get Hera. We're going to get Sabine. We're going to, it's
Maybe Chopper.
maybe Chopper. Like it's kind of shaping up to be live action Rebels, which,
Yeah.
if so, inject it directly into this vein right here. Like, great.
Oh, possibly Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yes. Well, I'm a marginal Thrawn fan. That's a whole, oh, look, I like art, whatever. That's going to get me the hate mail right there. That's
Yes,
the one.
yeah.
That's the one. I'm sorry.
That is the one.
That is the one. So yes, I'm actually really interested in that because I want to see what happened to Ezra. I want to see what happened to Thrawn. Thrawn is an interesting character and an interesting kind of big bad for this universe at this time. So yeah, I'm very interested in that for sure. Inject it directly into my veins. But the one that I'm currently most looking forward to with less anxiety is the new season of Mando, because we're going to talk Mandalore. And
yeah,
if there is something lore wise that I love, it is Mandalore.
Mandalore lore.
It is. I have absolutely organized Mandothons. I have a Mandothon spreadsheet of all episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels that deal with Mandalore, and the history of Mandalore, Death Watch, the whole thing. And I have absolutely watched that through a number of times. And so I'm
going to have to get that spreadsheet if you don't mind. I have to get that spreadsheet so I can post it.
Very happy to send it to you. And so I'm really interested. I'm so fascinated, like when The Mandalorian came out and this whole like, you can't take off your helmet. I'm like, that's such bullshit. Like, where did that even come from? And Bo-Katan's reaction to him, like, oh, you're part of the cult. Cool.
Yes.
That cracked me up. And so I'm here for more of that interplay between Bo-Katan and Din Djarin, and kind of him coming maybe to define what it means to be Mandalorian for him, and
maybe bring balance to Mandalore.
Maybe. I think that's interesting. I'm interested to see what happens with the Darksaber. I mean, I'm so fascinated. I would love, give me a deep dive into Tar Vizsla all day long. I am so here for it. We have a Darksaber in this house, and I love it. And I do wield it on the regular. It is very heavy. But yeah, I want to know more about that. I want to talk about Satine. Like, I want Satine's name to be said by a live action character.
Yeah.
I love all of those stories so much with Clan Vizsla and Ben Rao and like all of these cool people and House Wren, and what is Ursa doing? Is Ursa still alive? And Sabine's brother, and I love all of that lore so much. So I want to be back in that throne room from season 7 of Clone Wars, where Ahsoka and Maul had that great battle. I want to talk about the Maul DeLoreans when Maul took over as leader of Mandalore. Like, give me all of that. I want to see it. So I'm super, super stoked about the Mandalorian, and feel I'm less precious with the man. Like, I feel like those while I love them, I just want to accept those stories. I feel less precious about them than I do about Ahsoka, fully recognizing that Ahsoka is not mine. But like, who am I to say? Dave Filoni created this character. Like, who am I to say what's right or wrong for her? I mean, who are any of us to say, right? For all of us out here going, oh, the sequel trilogy sucked. Oh, somehow Palpatine returned. It's not my story to tell, so I can just say, okay, that's not for me. I'm going to put that over there.
Yep.
But that would be harder for me to do with an Ahsoka story and Hera and all of these other characters that became so important to me through Rebels.
Yeah.
That would be hard to do.
I gotta say, thinking about Rebels especially, because that is one of my favorites, I'd be hard pressed to think that they're going to do it wrong in any way. That it's going to probably thrill us, I hope.
Yeah. And I'm really, really interested. You know what also I'm afraid of? So for so many years, remember, I have a shirt that says Ahsoka lives, because for so many years we didn't know what happened to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
She left the Order and that was it, right? We didn't know.
She was gone.
And then she just showed up at the end of season 1 of Rebels. And we were like, holy crap, she's alive. That's amazing. Like, what happened? And now we kind of have some stuff to fill in those gaps. I'm afraid of seeing her die.
Oof.
Oh God, I could just tear up thinking about it. And we thought we maybe saw it on Malachor. We didn't know what happened to her for a while after she was dueling Vader. We didn't know. And then World Between Worlds. Oh my God, you want to get me on a nerd out about the Force? Let's talk about World Between Worlds. Who knows? Maybe we'll see World Between Worlds. Like, but
some of the Filoni mythology from
that stuff
Rebels.
So good. Yeah. So, who knows? Maybe we'll see that. But seeing her die is not like, listen, I'm sure it would be the end of, like, he wouldn't let her go out like a sucker for sure. But
no.
I don't know if I would ever be ready to see that,
Would you be able to handle her going out almost like Obi-Wan in a way, just going away, just saying, you know what, I've done everything I could and it wasn't enough and now I just need to retire? Although Obi-Wan was a little more hiding, but you can make it
What?
What if we see an Obi-Wan Force ghost in Ahsoka?
What if we see an Anakin Force ghost in Ahsoka? And
what if we see an Anakin Force ghost in... Because Ahsoka takes place after Jedi, correct?
So I don't know. I don't know exactly when it's going to take place, to be honest. So I've tried to avoid most news about it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. If she died to protect Luke or Leia or something, I mean, there's nothing that I would, there's nothing that would be better than that, of course.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure the Dave Filoni would never do he wouldn't do her dirty, for sure.
So my final question for you.
Oh God, I'm so nervous.
You go to Skywalker Ranch, and there at the gates, George Lucas greets you. What do you say to him?
Thank you. I mean, listen, it's him and an army, right? Who have built this thing, and when he was creating it, all of the things that I love about it, I would say most of the things that truly make me like the off the deep end Star Wars fan that I am, come from the Filoniverse. But the Filoniverse is built on top of the Lucasverse, and without this incredible base lore of the Force and of good and evil and light and dark and empires and desire for freedom and all of these great things that make Star Wars, Star Wars. I would just say thank you. And also, may I have some of that nice wine that you make here? Would be my
Some of the
next question.
Skywalker wine.
And then I would 100% get him drunk and ask about the nature of the Force. Like, I am so here to talk about my Monsters Inc. Force theory and see if I'm right, because that's really what I want to know. Because it's not his fault. It's Dave Filoni's fault that Yoda sucked and Mon Mothma sucked and Mace Windu sucked. None of that's on George. But I do want to talk about the nature of the Force. Okay, now I'm done, I swear.
Thank you, Jen, for sharing your nature of the Force with me, because it was fascinating to hear your theories, your soapboxes, and your passion for Star Wars.
Thank you. This has been so wonderful and so much fun to talk about this, and really nice to talk about it in a nice safe space where nobody on Twitter is yelling at me for my theories. So that is much appreciated. This is so much fun, and I'm so glad to hear your love of Star Wars and that you want to feature people's passion for Star Wars in this way. And everybody feels it differently, so it's incredible that you're going to highlight it. In this way. I really love that, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Can't wait to listen to all of them.
Thank you so much. Speaking of Twitter, where can people find you on the Star Wars Twitter?
They can find me on the Star Wars Twitter I'm just double checking my handle because I don't look at it enough, at a geeky squirrel. Follow me for tweets about dogs, Star Wars, various other nerdy pursuits, and occasionally free band names, which I like to share a lot. Free band name of the day. Always here for that.
It's in today. What is today's free band name?
The big one that is usually our go-to is Leftover Hand. is a regular band name for us, because we're all in our Zoom meetings or whatever, and you raise your hand to talk, and then inevitably the new you're muted is now is that a leftover hand, or do you want to speak again? It's a leftover hand. Sorry. So Leftover Hand is a really big band name for us.
That's a good one. I'm going to form a band. I'm going to name it Leftover Hand. I'm going to take over the world, and then I'll thank you at the Grammys.
Listen, I'm here for it. Just save me some front row tickets.
So that's what Star Wars means to Jennifer Chapman Gallego. Do you think that Rebels provided some emotional gut punches? Was Mace Windu a jerk face to Ahsoka? And did someone else get you into Star Wars? Let us know and get in on the conversation on Twitter or Instagram at Star Wars Mean to You. That's at Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. You can follow Jennifer on Twitter at a geeky squirrel. And all this information is in the podcast notes. And join me next week for my conversation with Dave Sherrill, an artist who finds old thrift store paintings and puts geek-centric characters into them. Like a pastoral ocean view with an abandoned, worn-down AT-AT that Ewoks have taken over and made into a village. It's a really cool stuff, and you can check out his work on Instagram at Dave Ruins Art. And remember, the Force will be with you, always. Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners, and that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.